Guyan and I had been betrothed since childhood. From the moment we were kids, I had ridden roughshod over him, keeping him on such a tight leash it felt like I was a human surveillance camera. Every time I tightened the screws, young Master Gu would grind his teeth in fury. Xiao Wan, just you wait. Sooner or later I'll tear this worthless engagement to shreds. Later, I accidentally stumbled upon an earth-shattering truth: I was nothing more than a fake heiress. Knowing my place, I immediately tucked my tail between my legs and started behaving myself, letting go completely. I stopped sticking my nose into any of his business, and no longer forced him to pay his dues, to fulfill his intimate duties as my fiancé. Seeing me back off so gracefully, Guyan spent more than half a month out celebrating with his sworn brothers, throwing lavish parties to mark his escape from his henpecked fate. Who would have guessed the young master would explode on the spot? Who needs you worrying about me? Who needs you managing me? Satisfied now. She's really run off to find another lapdog. So Guyan went right back to raising hell with Chu Jing and the rest of the crew. While the club music pounded so hard it rattled my bones, I listened as my best friend Su Mian gave me the battlefield report on Guyan's latest antics. I sat there absent-mindedly stirring my bubble tea when she handed me her phone. In the Instagram story, Guyan wore a wine red silk shirt with 3 buttons undone in the most ostentatious way, lounging lazily against the VIP sofa with that signature arrogant expression. A glowing cigarette was pinched between his long, elegant fingers while a pack of fake, rich young masters surrounded him, each with a scantily clad, smoking hot girl in his arms. I scrolled through the whole thing with a perfectly calm face, then handed the phone back to Su Mian just as calmly. No big deal. Let him do whatever he wants. What, hello? What is this? Su Mian's eyes widened like saucers as she reached out to feel my forehead. You don't even have a fever. Don't tell me an alien has possessed Xiao Wan. I raised an eyebrow at her. Su Mian, do I need to dig up the story of you wetting your pants at age 6 to prove I'm still the real deal? With that, I grabbed my designer bag and stood up to leave. In truth, I couldn't really blame Su Mian for reacting like she'd seen a ghost. Ever since I got engaged to Guyan at 8 years old, I had clung to him like glue, supervising him more strictly than any surveillance camera ever could. Back then I relied on my family's status to control him. But now, what right did I have left? Because the label of Guyan's fiancé was clearly about to expire. 3 days ago I had accidentally picked up the DNA test results and discovered I shared no blood with the Xiao family. It wouldn't be long before the real biological daughter, the authentic heiress, would be welcomed home. The fate of a counterfeit like me was obvious even with my eyes closed. All these years I had leaned on the title of eldest young miss of the Xiao family and fiancé to the Gu family heir, offending more than a few people along the way. Countless people were already waiting with popcorn for the day I fell from the clouds straight into the mud. Especially Guyan. Ever since the engagement, I had used his grandfather's favor as my backing to keep him in line. When he turned 18, I even slammed 3 family rules down on the table. First, no smoking, no drinking, no fighting, and no hanging out with those good-for-nothing friends. Second, no staying out overnight. Curfew at midnight sharp, and being 1 minute late would bring hell down on him. He had to fulfill his duties as the man of the house at least 3 times a week, no haggling over the price. Every time I tightened the leash, Guyan would fume. Xiao Wan, just you wait. Sooner or later I'll kick you to the curb. In the past I had treated his words like empty threats, but things were different now. In high society arranged marriages, the most taboo thing was a completely mismatched family. No matter how much his grandfather doted on me, he would never allow his precious eldest grandson to marry a nameless girl who brought 0 economic benefit. This marriage was doomed. To avoid the nightmare of my real identity being exposed, and then being humiliated by Guyan, I decided to cut my losses and withdraw on my own terms. I would no longer interfere in anything he did. That night, instead of hunting him down like usual, I obediently went home early. I had just finished removing my makeup when I heard movement at the door. Guyan had come back. At the sound of his footsteps, I instinctively looked up. Our eyes met. For a split second, guilt flashed across his face and he almost looked away, but then he forced his chin up, acting all tough. He lifted his jaw and deliberately provoked me. Xiao Wan, see that? Today I didn't just fool around with Chu Jing's crew. I smoked, I drank, the whole package. What are you going to do about it? I didn't flare up and argue like before. I simply gave a soft, stood up, and headed toward the bedroom. Hey, Xiao Wan. Guyan took 3 long strides, grabbed my wrist, and pulled me back. His dark eyes glared at me, his voice laced with inexplicable irritation. Did you hear me clearly? I smoked today. I drank today. I'm not deaf, I said, lowering my gaze, my tone as flat as still water. You don't need to report your every move to me. Go have fun. Let go, I'm sleepy. His lips curved into a smug smile. Ha, I knew she was still sulking. The last time I stood you up at the party was my fault. You've been ignoring me for 3 days now. Don't think I don't know what you're plotting. Before I could speak, Gu Yan was already writing his own script. Fine, out of consideration for you, tonight you can be on top. I don't mind. With that, the young master started unbuckling his belt and stripping off his shirt. I had to admit, Gu Yan's physique was top tier. Broad shoulders, a narrow waist and 8-pack abs that practically glowed with vitality. In the past I had lost my mind over that body more times than I could count. He boldly grabbed my hand and pressed it straight against his burning, hot abs, turning his face away while the tips of his ears flushed red like boiled shrimp. Consider it a treat. Tonight you can touch and squeeze however you want. I'll indulge you. I glanced at the calendar on the wall, and suddenly remembered today was exactly the scheduled payment day. Normally I was the one who had to remind him with a frown. Yet here was the young master, voluntarily offering himself up in the most suspicious way. Gu Yan, I'm not buying tonight. I yanked my hand free, bolted into the bedroom, and locked the door, leaving one very stunned man frozen in the living room. The next day at noon when I finally woke up, the sun was already high in the sky. Strangely, Gu Yan hadn't gone out partying. He was wearing loungewear, sprawled on the sofa scrolling through his phone like the picture of refinement. The moment he saw me shuffle out of the room, he put the phone away, cleared his throat dramatically, and spoke in an offhand tone. Xiao Wan, didn't you complain last time that my clothes were outdated? I'm free today, so I'll take you shopping at the mall. This is his olive branch. No thanks. I already have plans with Su Mian today. I refused without a second thought. Xiao Wan, how long are you planning to keep this up? Gu Yan tossed the throw pillow aside and lunged forward, grabbing my wrist. His brows furrowed tightly, he bit his lip, his voice a mix of frustration and hesitation. I've already laid out the red carpet for you. Are you still planning to run and tattle to Grandpa? So that was why the young master had been unusually obedient today. He was afraid I would wield the family's ultimate weapon. I laughed inwardly, waving my hands. Relax, I'm not telling anyone. I admit I used to be a bit tyrannical and controlled you too much. Today I officially announce that those 3 ridiculous rules are cancelled. From now on, the world is your oyster. You can fly wherever you want and do whatever you want. I won't breathe a word about it. 100%. To prove I'm serious, I even raised 3 fingers and swore. Gu Yan stared at me like I was some alien creature. For some reason, a thin layer of moisture appeared in those dark eyes. The corners of his eyes suddenly turned red, his chest heaving violently as if he were suppressing something. Finally he coldly flung my hand away and spat through gritted teeth. Fine, do whatever you want. The front door slammed shut with a deafening bang. I stood there stunned. Hello. I just gave him total freedom. Why is he throwing a tantrum? That afternoon I sat stirring my coffee with Su Mian and slowly told her the bombshell about my real identity. Su Mian's jaw dropped. It took her a long moment to find her voice. Oh my god, so you think the engagement is definitely getting cancelled, and that's why you're letting Gu Yan run wild. But Wan, have you considered that maybe Gu Yan actually has feelings for you and won't let you go? Stop reading so many CEO novels. Gu Yan liking me, please. I curled my lips in a self-mocking smile. Just last week he had personally announced it to the entire world. Saying it didn't hurt would be a lie. I had grown up beside Gu Yan, since we were toddlers in diapers. Claiming I felt nothing for him would make me a block of wood. On the night I learned I was a fake, my whole world collapsed. All I wanted was to run into his arms and steal a little warmth to ease the pain. But the moment I reached the door of the VIP room at the club, I overheard the bitter comedy show between him and his friends. Brother Chu, are you really planning to carry that wife on your head until the end of time? The whole capital calls you the wife, fearing young master who's completely whipped by Xiao Wan. Don't tell me you actually fell for her? Gu Yan's voice rang out, arrogant and decisive. Even if I stay single until I'm old and gray, I would never like her. Xiao Wan. She's just a little paler than average, her eyes a little bigger, and her temper is like a lioness from the east. She doesn't suit my taste at all. If Grandpa hadn't threatened to break my legs and forced the engagement, I never would have lowered myself to tolerate that annoying woman. Standing outside the door, my feet turned to ice and my heart felt like it was being crushed. The last fragile illusion I held for Guyan shattered into dust. I quietly turned and left, wandering alone under the dim streetlights in the dead of night. He had said it with his own mouth. I looked at Sumayan, swallowing the lump in my throat. He can't wait to set off fireworks the day I'm kicked out. Sumayan hesitated, wanting to say something, but seeing the determination in my eyes, she stayed silent. I had always been proud for 19 years. If I waited until my identity was exposed and the Gu family threw the cancellation papers in my face, even digging a hole to hide in wouldn't erase the humiliation. So my plan was simple. Before the real heiress was brought home, I would be the one to dump Guyan first. Sure enough, without my leash, Guyan became a wild horse with no reins. For several days straight he didn't bother coming home. In the past, if the clock struck midnight and he still wasn't back, I would spam his phone until it exploded or drive over myself to drag him home. Tonight, just as I finished applying my face mask and was about to sleep, one of Guyan's underlings suddenly sent me a video. Sister-in-law, Brother Chu is going crazy tonight. He keeps demanding we call for Peach. Please come manifest and haul him home. I opened the clip. Guyan sat lazily with his legs crossed on the sofa. In front of him was a girl in a thin white dress, the very picture of a fragile white lotus. My chest tightened. Oh, the young master sure adapted to freedom quickly. Got it. Let him enjoy himself. I typed back coldly. Seeing I wasn't taking the bait, the underling sent another clip. This time Guyan had his arm around the white lotus's waist and casually slipped a black card into her cleavage, smiling wickedly. My fiancé has retired. Show me whatever skills you've got. My eyes stung. Without another word I blocked the meddlesome underling. To prepare for the upcoming cancellation, I started looking for a new apartment, so I could move out of the love nest the Gu family had prepared for us. Since we were going our separate ways, there was no point in staying. After touring several luxury complexes, I finally settled on one I liked. Today I went to the showroom to sign the contract. The moment I stepped out of the elevator, I ran into my university senior PZ. We hadn't seen each other in ages, so we chatted and laughed as we walked. Just as we reached the entrance of the residential area, a familiar dark figure appeared, blocking our path. Guyan wore a black leather jacket. His phoenix eyes narrowed dangerously as he glared at me in Paizi, flames of rage and unmistakable panic burning in his gaze. He strode forward, the corners of his eyes bloodshot, and hissed through gritted teeth. Xiao Wan, who the hell is this guy? Don't you forget you're still a woman with a fiancé. Well, soon to be an ex-fiancé, I replied lightly. Guyan's pupils contracted. He lunged like a panther and clamped both hands on my shoulders. His fingertips turned white from the force, his breathing ragged, a layer of crimson rising in his eyes. Xiao Wan, what do you mean by this? Are you dumping me for this nobody? I opened my mouth to retort, but before I could speak he dragged me roughly and shoved me straight into the supercar parked nearby. The door slammed shut. A kiss reeking of mint cigarettes crashed down on me. He bit hard on my earlobe, his voice hoarse with resentment. Xiao Wan, you and I are childhood sweethearts who grew up together. What the hell is that guy? Get lost. I swung my hand and pushed hard against Guyan's chest, but he was like a madman. His frenzied kisses slid down to my collarbone. Xiao Wan, you told me to get lost. His large hand landed on my thigh, his dangerous breath fanning against my neck. If you dare open the door and step out, I'll pin you down right here in front of him and kiss you until you can't breathe. That night when we got home, Guyan deliberately stripped off his shirt and paraded around, showing off his rock, hard 8-pack abs. Xiao Wan, come here and inspect the goods. He grabbed my hand and yanked it hard, pressing my palm against his stomach, his tone full of grievance. That night I didn't touch anyone. The moment you blocked that guy Bayao, I ditched everything and raced home in the middle of the night. Xiao Wan, you still have feelings for me, don't you? Hearing his clumsy attempt to coax me, my heart softened for a moment. Maybe Guyan really does have some feelings for me after all. I pulled my hand back, pretended to wrinkle my nose, and stepped away. You reek of alcohol and cheap perfume. Go take a shower and scrub it all off before we talk. Guyan looked like he wanted to argue, but when he saw my glare he obediently grabbed his clothes and headed into the bathroom. While the sound of running water echoed, his iPad lying on the sofa suddenly lit up. A string of messages from the brothers' group chat popped up. I glanced over curiously. Brother Chu, I had someone investigate. The guy with my sister-in-law this afternoon was Pei Zi, her senior from university. Wow, Brother Chu went full jealous rage mode. That proves he's head over heels for sister-in-law. Right after that, Guyan's own account replied. He must have been texting from the bathroom. Wake up, guys. Who the hell likes that tigress Xiao Wan? I'm just annoyed that something that used to be mine is suddenly trying to change owners. I would never take back a loose woman like her. Just wait. I'll use a honey trap to make Xiao Wan fall so hard she can't live without me. Then I'll dump her and cure her of her arrogance once and for all. I turned off the screen. The tiny spark of tenderness that had just bloomed in my chest was instantly doused with a bucket of ice water. So today's jealous act was nothing but a performance. Behind my back he was still plotting such a despicable scheme. I smiled coldly. At that moment Gu Yan stepped out of the bathroom, steam rising from his body, wearing nothing but a towel around his waist. He rubbed his chin against the crook of my neck, his low voice carrying a seductive note. Xiao Wan, we've been holding back for so long. I raised my hand and shoved that handsome face away, my voice cold as frost. Gu Yan, get lost. Don't touch me. You disgust me. Gu Yan froze. A curse died in his throat as his brows knitted tightly. Xiao Wan, what are you acting all high and mighty for? Not letting me touch you. Planning to save that pure body for PZ. Remembering the garbage messages I had just read, I suddenly felt that explaining anything to him was pointless. Either way, this marriage was about to end. At the very least, when I left, I would take my pride with me. I pressed my lips together and lifted my chin. Exactly. From now on, our rivers won't interfere with each other's wells. I have no interest in managing your life, and you can stop worrying about mine. We each live our own lives and mind our own business. Fine by me. Gu Yan's eyes turned blood red as he roared. Xiao Wan, I'll give you two choices. 1. Cut all contact with that guy. 2. We go together and cancel the engagement right now. I went with the flow and nodded. Then tomorrow morning I'll call both families and arrange to meet at a cafe to settle everything. With that, I bit my lip to hold back my tears, turned on my heel, and walked into the bedroom, slamming the door behind me. When I came back out, the living room felt as gloomy as a funeral parlor. Gu Yan sat on the sofa with his arms crossed, his gaze sharp as daggers. Xiao Wan, who do you think you're threatening? If you want to cancel the engagement, go ahead. If you're so capable, pack all your designer clothes and get the hell out of my house tonight. Those racks of high-end clothes in the closet were an eyesore anyway. Leaving Gu Yan, do you really think that with PZ's pathetic salary, he can even afford to buy you a decent bag? He may not have money, but I like him. I only feel sorry that he can't buy me one. I delivered the extra stab, then dragged out my largest suitcase and began tossing clothes inside one by one. Xiao Wan, are you serious about leaving? Gu Yan suddenly panicked. He leaped up and pressed down hard on my suitcase. His fingertips turned white from gripping so tightly, his chest heaving like a bellows, and the corners of his eyes grew wet. You're really throwing me away for that nobody? Would being with him feel as good as being with me? What does he have that I don't? What did I do wrong? He glared at me. Then his legs suddenly gave out. He dropped to his knees on the fluffy rug, his face as pale as paper, his whole body shaking violently. Gu Yan reached out with one hand and clutched the hem of my shirt, while the other arm hugged his left chest. His face twisted in agony. Xiao Wan, it hurts so much. I was wrong. From now on I swear I'll be good and listen to you. Please don't leave, okay? He convulsed with each breath, cold sweat pouring down his face. It didn't look like an act at all. Only then did I panic and remember he had a congenital heart condition. The very reason the Gu family spoiled him like their ancestor. Gu Yan's eyes squeezed shut, and he fainted right there on the floor. I frantically dialed emergency services. While he was being rushed into the ER, I sat in the cold hallway, my mind a chaotic mess. He clearly hated me, yet the moment I said I was really leaving, his reaction was this intense. Could this stupid dog actually care about me after all? Gu Yan had to stay in the hospital for observation for a few days. That afternoon I packed his personal belongings and went to the hospital to stay with him. The moment I reached the door of the VIP room, I heard the sound of a game and the loud voices of his friends. Brother Chu's bitter husband act is top tier. He faked a heart attack and checked himself in just to tie sister-in-law down. What? You think I actually miss her? Gu Yan's voice rang out, full of smugness. I already told you, I'm casting the line and waiting for Xiao Wan to fall so hard she can't live without me. Then I'll kick her when it hurts the most and cure her of that arrogant attitude. Gotta admit, pretending to have a heart attack worked like a charm. My hand, which had been about to turn the doorknob, froze in mid-air. A chill ran down my spine. I really hit the jackpot by showing up just in time to hear this garbage. Otherwise I would have been fooled again by his lovesick act. I should have used my brain sooner. With young Master Gu's personality, he thought the sky was only as big as his palm. If the engagement was going to be cancelled, he had to be the one to do it, or he wouldn't be satisfied. If I stubbornly forced him to break up now, who knew what crazy stunt this madman would pull next? Fine. I would play along. I would cooperate and act as the perfect, gentle fiancé. I would wait until the real heiress walked through the door, and the Xiao family automatically forced me to give up the title. During the days Gu Yan stayed in the hospital, I acted like a frightened little wife who never once mentioned canceling the engagement, and instead took care of him like a devoted servant attending to an emperor. Seeing how obedient I had become, Gu Yan was so pleased his tail practically wagged up to the sky. It was during this time that the Xiao family drama finally exploded. The real heiress, Xiao Wan had been found. The welcoming banquet was held on a grand scale, inviting half of Beijing's upper crust to celebrate. The moment Gu Yan was discharged, he put on a sharp suit and dragged me along. He had already heard the rumors that I was a counterfeit, but instead of looking down on me, the young master looked downright delighted. He laced his fingers tightly with mine, leaned close to my ear, and smiled sinisterly. Now that you have no more value, Xiao Wan, without the Xiao family backing you up, let's see if you still dare talk back to me. From now on, your only support is me, Gu Yan. But the real show was still to come. When Xiao Wan descended the stairs in her evening gown, her eyes met Gu Yan and lit up like headlights. Oh, it's you. My savior. Do you still remember me? Gu Yan raised an eyebrow, shot me a provocative glance, then smiled brightly. Of course I remember a beauty like you. From the way the two of them interacted, I finally understood. Years ago during a rainstorm, Gu Yan had accidentally played the hero and rescued Xiao Wan from a group of thugs. Watching the two of them banter and laugh like the perfect male and female leads of a romance novel, a sour feeling rose in my chest like an old jar of vinegar. Back home, I casually picked up his iPad again. The brothers' group chat was buzzing. Brother Chu, standing next to the real heiress today, you two looked explosive together. Honestly, a gentle, shy young miss like Wan is every man's dream. Unlike that counterfeit Wan who's always glaring like a tigress. So annoying. Brother Chu, why don't you take this chance to kick the fake aside and lock down the real one for a perfect match? Relax, boys. Wait until Xiao Wan is so in love with me she can't live without me. That's when kicking her will feel the best. I tossed the iPad onto the bed. A raging fire burned in my chest. The next day, my adoptive parents, now just other people's parents, called me back to the Xiao family villa. They cried and said they owed Xiao Wan too many years of youth. Xiao Wan had fallen in love at first sight with Gu Yan and wanted to marry into the Gu family. So they hoped I would be understanding and give up the engagement for her sake. Of course, I agree. I nodded without hesitation. All this glory had belonged to her from the beginning. Returning what I had borrowed was only right. I had no interest in fighting over a scumbag. But once the news spread that young Master Gu was swapping fiancées, the gossipy upper class of Beijing would drown me in spit. I could no longer stay in this city. After leaving the Xiao family, I took a taxi straight to the private drift track that Gu Yan often rented out. Even though the answer was already crystal clear, I still wanted to ask him one final question to cut the last thread in my heart. The engines roared. Gu Yan, dressed in a cool racing suit, leaned against the hood of his Lamborghini chatting with his friends. When he saw me, one of his lackeys joked, "Brother Chu, your wife is here looking for you." Gu Yan looked up, his brows knitted with impatience. "Xiao Wan, are you really that bored? Coming all the way here to supervise me the second I step out of the house?" I stopped 2 meters away, looked straight into his eyes without blinking, and enunciated every word. "Gu Yan, to you, does it not matter who the fiancé is? And if it doesn't?" Gu Yan curled his lip in a mocking smile, his eyes full of arrogance. "Xiao Wan, you really think I can't live without you? The earth will keep spinning just fine. But as long as you behave from now on, and stop throwing yourself at random men outside, I'll take it easy and won't cancel the engagement with you." Seeing how generous I was being, I clenched my fists so tightly my nails dug into my palms until they nearly drew blood. I took a deep breath and forced the calmest smile I could manage. "All right, I understand." Gu Yan snorted coldly. "It's good that you know your place." I turned on my heel and walked away, leaving the roaring sound of car engines behind me. That same afternoon, I met Su Mayan for a farewell hot-pot dinner. In the evening, I dragged my suitcase onto a plane and flew straight out of Beijing, cutting off all contact. Time flew by in a flash. In the blink of an eye, half a year had passed. After 2 months of traveling to clear my head, I decided to settle down in Nanjing, a warm, sunny city in the south. There, I joined a media conglomerate and started rebuilding my life, gradually pushing those melodramatic, dog-blood memories from Beijing into the past. Who would have thought that the world is round and narrow paths always cross again? During a networking banquet for the business world, I was accompanying my boss to entertain clients when I unexpectedly ran into Guyan. I represented Party A, while he was the big boss of Party B. In just half a year, the once arrogant young master had transformed into a domineering CEO. Guyan wore a perfectly tailored suit, his hair neatly styled with gel. Sitting at the banquet table, he exuded a deep, cold, and mature aura, nothing like the impulsive, loud young man from before. The moment I entered the room, our eyes met. He glanced at me indifferently, as if I were just a random auntie passing by on the street, without the slightest ripple of emotion. It made sense. An ex-fiancée who had run away was no different from spilled water. I followed my boss to a corner of the room and sat there quietly. After a few rounds of social drinking, I overheard the reason he had come to Nanchang. The Gu Corporation wanted to train their heir, so they had sent him to the subsidiary here to gain experience. Feeling stifled in the banquet hall, I slipped out to use the restroom for some fresh air. The moment I finished washing my hands and stepped out, I jumped in shock. Guyan's tall figure was blocking the doorway. The corners of his eyes were red, and he stared at me with a gaze full of both resentment and grievance, like an abandoned puppy. Okay, I take back my earlier praise about the CEO being deep and reserved. He's still the same Guyan whose every emotion shows clearly on his face. I treated him like he was invisible and tried to slip past, but my wrist was immediately seized by a burning, hot hand. Guyan ground his teeth, his voice choked. Xiao Wan, you disappeared without a trace. Now that we've met again, you don't have a single word to say to me. I calmly pulled my hand back. My memory isn't that bad. What is there left for us to talk about? Guyan let out a bitter laugh. Ah, that's right, there's really nothing left to say. The banquet dragged on until 10 at night. Since my boss and I weren't going the same way, we had to stand on the roadside to hail a taxi. A sleek black Maybach slowly pulled up. The window rolled down, revealing Guyan's cold, sharp profile. Get in. I'll take you home. No need. Someone's already coming to pick me up. Someone. Guyan froze for 3 full seconds as his brain processed the information, then immediately understood who someone was. The corners of his eyes turned bloodshot. So you ran all the way to Nanjing because of that Pei guy. What a waste of my worry. I actually thought the Xiao family had forced you out onto the streets. Xiao Wan, you're really something. So you actually had another dog waiting outside. So what? I shrugged and delivered another stab. From the very beginning, I insisted on canceling the engagement precisely because I wanted to be with him openly and honorably. Xiao Wan, very good. Guyan was so provoked by me that he floored the gas pedal. The car shot forward, carrying away his despair. In truth, I wasn't bluffing. Settling in Nanjing really did have Pei Zi's help, but he wasn't my lover. He was my nominal older brother. After the real daughter returned, I went to the hospital to visit my biological father, who was bedridden and ran into Pei Zi, the son of my stepmother. As for deliberately making Guyan think I cheated, it was just me trying to preserve the last shred of my dignity, so that my departure would look a little cooler. Unfortunately, my boss assigned me to handle the collaboration project with the Gu Corporation's subsidiary. The young master himself had come to station his troops at my company for several days, making it impossible for me to avoid him. I used to think he was just a useless rich kid, but it turned out he was actually quite capable at work. The data didn't lie. During lunch break, I was eating sweet and sour ribs in the cafeteria when Guyan showed up out of nowhere with his tray and sat down directly across from me. His face was as dark as the bottom of a pot, and his eyes looked like they wanted to devour me alive. Xiao Wan, you've already moved in with him, haven't you? Be honest, how many times a week does he satisfy you compared to me? I nearly choked on a piece of rib. I looked up and glared at him. Guyan, watch that filthy mouth of yours. If you're sick, go take your medicine. That's right. I am sick. Guyan leaned forward, and the corners of his eyes grew red and watery again. Creeped out by his half-crazy, half-desperate expression, I grabbed my tray and stood up to leave, but my wrist was clamped in a tight grip. From behind me came his hoarse, trembling voice. Xiao Wan. That day at the racetrack when I said it didn't matter who the fiancée was. I didn't mean it the way you thought. At the racetrack, I had no idea they were forcing you to give up the engagement. I have never been engaged to Xiao Wan Q, and I never will be. I frowned. What is this? Has the young master suddenly seen the light and come to explain himself to his enemy, probably feeling guilty for adding fuel to the fire and driving me away? I calmly shook his hand off, my voice flat. Does it even matter anymore? All these years, you've been dying for me to disappear so you could be free. My skin is a little too pale. My eyes are a little too big. I don't suit your taste. I was always controlling every little thing you did, and you've had enough of it. You even called me loose and planned to make me fall desperately in love with you, before kicking me to the curb. I'm sorry. I didn't. Guyan opened his mouth to argue but immediately froze. All color drained from his face as panic flooded his eyes. The moment he realized the secret from the group chat had been exposed. Xiao Wan. I looked at him with a pitying smile, disappointed. I never knew you hated me that much. I had actually deluded myself into thinking you tolerated me managing you, because you had some feelings for me. But I was wrong. It must have been so hard for young Master Gu to keep up that act for all these years. That's not true. Guyan panicked and grabbed both of my hands, his voice breaking. I like being controlled by you. Guyan, stop being so full of yourself. I coldly peeled off every finger that was clinging to me. You're just suffering from Stockholm Syndrome, because you're not used to losing your manager. From now on, please stop bothering my life. I didn't know what kind of virus had infected Guyan's system, but after I exposed him that day, he completely transformed into a devoted tail, wagging simp. He bought me coffee in the morning and delivered bubble tea during breaks. His eyes were always moist and watery whenever he looked at me. One day I worked overtime and came home late. Pei drove over to pick me up. After a quick bowl of pho at the street stall, when he dropped me off at the entrance of my apartment building, Pei suddenly said softly, that black car has been tailing us the whole way. I glanced back. Sure enough, the familiar Maybach was parked under a tree nearby. Just ignore him. He's crazy. Pei looked at me deeply. You still have feelings for him, don't you? I shook my head firmly. I don't like him anymore. That dog has already been gnawed on. Pei expression suddenly turned extremely serious. A flash of self-mocking pain crossed the bottom of his eyes. You may be able to fool him, but you can't fool me. Then let me help you out one last time. Consider it a parting gift. With that, Pei suddenly stepped forward, lowered his head close to my face, and his warm breath brushed against my hair. From the angle of the Maybach, it definitely looked 100% like a passionate French kiss. My eyes widened in shock. Pei pulled back and smiled gently. I wish you a lifetime of peace and happiness. Before I could recover, Pei had already turned around and driven away. When I finally came back to my senses and turned around, Guyan was already standing right in front of me. His face was filled with murderous intent, his eyes blood, red as if they were about to drip blood, and he roared in agony. Xiaowan, that bastard just kissed you. How could you let him kiss you? I tucked a strand of hair behind my ear and looked up at him calmly. My boyfriend kissed me. What's wrong with that? What does it have to do with you? Xiaowan. Guan cupped my face with both hands and frantically rubbed his thumb across my lips, as if trying to erase the traces. Pei. I'm going to kill him. I'm going to fight him to the death. Fury, unwillingness, and extreme humiliation filled the space between his brows. I curled my lips. Guyan, if you dare touch even a single hair on his head, you and I will never share the same sky in this life or the next. You would protect him that much. Guyan was stunned, his hands dropped limply to his sides as his eyes shattered with utter loneliness. I flung his hands away and turned to leave. Under the dim yellow streetlights, Guyan called after me, his voice thick with sobs, miserable and pathetic. In the past, you never protected me like that in front of other people. And have you ever done the same for me? I replied coldly. Guyan froze. Suddenly he rushed forward from behind, wrapping his arms tightly around me until I could barely breathe. His burning breath fanned against my ear. I've changed. I swear. I've started learning how to take over the corporation. I'm no longer that useless, troublemaking rich kid. My marriage is now something I decide for myself. No one can force me. Come back to me. I won't let you shed even a single tear of grievance. If you hate the Xiao family, tomorrow I'll spend whatever it takes to bankrupt them and make them live on the streets. Listening to his cliché CEO novel nonsense, I coldly peeled off every finger gripping my waist. Guyan, I don't need a madman. Goodbye. That night at 2 a.m., I was sound asleep when my phone rang insistently. On the other end was an unfamiliar girl's voice. Hello, is this Miss Xiao Wan? I'm a staff member at the bar. could you please come over and pick up your boyfriend? There's a customer named Guyan who's crying and throwing a tantrum here. Guyan crying. The sky must be falling. A mix of curiosity and annoyance drove me to throw on a coat and head to the bar. The moment I walked in, I was hit with a shocking scene. The once majestic and arrogant young master was hugging a bottle of chivas, sitting slumped on the floor. His lips were pressed tightly together to hold back his sobs as big, fat tears rolled down onto his shirt. He looked as aggrieved as a child whose candy had been stolen. The girls at the nearby tables sighed in relief when they saw me. Oh my God, are you this guy's girlfriend? Whatever you fought about, just take him home and talk it out behind closed doors. He's been crying nonstop since evening. In all my years working here, I've never seen a man get dumped and cry hard enough to flood the entire bar. Please take him home, miss. The moment I walked over with a dark expression, Guyan lunged forward like an octopus, wrapping his arms tightly around my waist. He buried his tear-streaked face into my stomach and wailed miserably. One, ever since the day you left, I've regretted it so much my heart is bleeding. Please have mercy and just look at me one more time. Those stray dogs outside are useless. I'm the only good dog with the highest value and best performance. He grabbed my hand and pressed it against his face, which was wet with sweat and tears. His nose was red, and he looked like a soggy, pitiful mess that was both hilarious and heartbreaking. I gritted my teeth, wanting to kick him away, but his strength was too much. I snapped, let go. I want to go home and sleep. Guyan looked up at me with his wet puppy eyes. Then let me go home with you, Wan. Don't leave me out on the street. On the taxi ride back to the apartment, Guyan clung to me tightly and wouldn't let go even half a step. His deep, dark eyes stared at me unblinkingly, terrified that if he blinked I'd disappear. The moment we entered the house, I planned to throw him onto the sofa and slip away. But Guyan suddenly flipped the script. He grabbed my wrist and yanked hard, causing me to fall onto his chest. He wrapped his arms around me. His eyes were hot and intoxicated, as if they wanted to burn through all my defenses. Xiao Wan, don't you want to inspect the goods? To be honest, setting aside Guyan's foul mouth, his looks and body were exactly my type. Pure white moonlight. Looking at that flawless face so close to mine, my shameless heart skipped a beat. He took my hand and guided it under his shirt, sliding it across his firm abs. His voice was low and husky against my ear. One, do you want it? I didn't say another word. I closed my eyes and let his passionate kiss rain down on me. That night, we went from the living room sofa all the way to the bedroom. Under the soft golden lighting, Guyan was like a starved beast finally released back into the wild. He seemed tireless, using every position to ravish me, as if he wanted to grind me into his very bones and marrow. The next morning when I woke up, the spot beside me was empty. I pouted, thinking that last night he had taken advantage of being drunk, and now that he was sober he felt ashamed and ran away. Whatever, sleeping with a handsome man with 8-pack abs. I wasn't at a loss. That afternoon, Chu Jing, the same meddlesome underling from before, suddenly flew in from Beijing and pounded on my door. The moment he saw me, he bowed dramatically. Sister-in-law, you've misunderstood Brother Chu. He never intended to cancel the engagement with you. The moment you disappeared, the Xiao family came demanding to swap brides. Brother Chu flipped the entire tea table and kicked them out. Grandpa tried to force him to meet other heiresses. Brother Chu grabbed a golf club and smashed the living room to pieces. He nearly got beaten by Grandpa and sent to the hospital. He yelled that his marriage was his own business, and no one had the right to take Xiao Wan away from him. For the past half year, he's completely quit his playboy lifestyle and buried himself in the company learning management, all so he could gain power fast enough to bring you back. I stood frozen at the door. So everything Guyan had said to me in the cafeteria that day had come straight from his heart. Chu Jing scratched his head and sighed. Brother Chu is actually so in love with you that he's gone crazy, but his mouth is just too stubborn. We all know he likes to say the opposite of what he means to act cool in front of us, so we deliberately provoked him in the group chat for fun. Who knew he would actually slip up and let you see it? After sending Chu Jing off, I immediately grabbed my phone and called Guyan. He picked up in less than a second. Xiao Wan. Last night you got drunk and vulnerable, and I took advantage of you. I stole your virginity. You need to take responsibility. I couldn't help but laugh along. So how does the young master want me to take responsibility? Let me warn you in advance. I won't be anyone's mistress. So you're saying you want me to be your official husband? His voice practically wagged with excitement. I deliberately teased him. The thing is, I already have a boyfriend. If you don't mind being the other man, I could reluctantly squeeze you into my schedule. The other end went silent for 3 seconds. Then an angry roar exploded. Xiao Wan. I don't fucking need it. Beep beep beep. Guyan hung up immediately. But if it hadn't been for Chu Jing clearing up the misunderstanding, I really wouldn't have known that this stubborn-mouthed guy had torn his heart out for me. From that day on, young Master Gu officially moved his entire life into my company. While I was pouring water in the pantry, he suddenly appeared behind me, his tone dripping with jealousy. What kind of boyfriend is Paisy anyway? I haven't seen him show up once all week. What if you get sick? He's nothing like me. No matter how far away, I'm just one step away. Wherever you are, I'll appear. Wan, would you consider recruiting an alternate boyfriend? I ignored him and kept living my life, waiting to see how long he could keep up the act. When he saw me drinking instant coffee, Gu Yan frowned and snatched it away. A young miss like you should be handled with kid gloves. How can you drink this foot-washing water? I forbid it. He pulled a powerful black card from his pocket and stuffed it straight into my shirt. His eyes were timid and pleading. Give me another chance. I guarantee that as your boyfriend, my skills are 10,000 times better than PZ's. I sighed helplessly and turned around, crossing my arms as I looked at him. Gu Yan, will you die if you stop being so stubborn for one day? I said one sentence. You like me that much? Gu Yan swallowed hard, his eyes shining like headlights. If I say I like you, will you really dump that guy and make me your real boyfriend? I burst out laughing. Pei Zi and I were never in a relationship. He's my stepmother's son, my nominal older brother. That kiss on the street was just staged from the right angle to piss you off. Gu Yan's pupils trembled violently for 2 seconds. After his brain finished processing the data, he lunged forward and hugged me tightly, crying loudly like a summer downpour. From now on whoever acts stubborn again is a dog. I swear I won't be foul-mouthed anymore. That evening when he came home, Gu Yan happily brought back a gift box. He personally took out a specially designed necklace with a lock, put it around his own neck, then handed me the key with sparkling eyes. For the rest of my life, I willingly become the loyal dog of Xiao Wan alone. Boss, play with me however you want. From the day he returned, young Master Gu officially became a heavy-duty stalker. At home he stuck to me like glue. When sleeping he held me so tightly it was like he was afraid I'd grow wings and fly away. Outside he followed me everywhere, and he even obediently handed over all his bank cards. 1. You have no idea. While you were gone these past few months, my money was just sitting there growing mold with nowhere to be spent. If you pity me, go ahead and swipe my card. Whatever you used to do to the rich kid back then, feel free to do it to me now. There was also the time I had dinner plans with my girlfriends and forbade him from coming along. This stalker got so anxious he was on the verge of tears. 1. Don't let me go. Are you planning to go out and admire other guys with 6-packs? No man outside can be as clean and good as me. I don't care. I'm going to follow you as your bodyguard. What if someone steals you away? How would I live? My head was pounding from his nagging. In anger, I swung my hand and smacked his shoulder. Gu Yan, if you're sick, go take your medicine. 1. Hit me harder. Not only did Gu Yan not get angry, he even showed an extremely perverted smile and leaned his handsome face toward me. Hit me again, baby. Hello, what is this? I hit him and he actually enjoyed it. At this point, I officially surrendered. This man truly carried the masochistic gene in his bones. Amused, I casually slapped his cheek. Gu Yan ecstatically grabbed my hand and rubbed his face against my palm. Xiao Wan, feel free to exercise your exclusive right to domestic violence. You've already hit me and scolded me. He gently guided my hand downward, placing it on his burning hot, hard abs. His voice was low and seductive. This place has missed you so much. 1. Can I have another reward? Extra Gu Yan's perspective in the hazy VIP room, filled with cigarette smoke and pounding music. Gu Yan glanced at the Rolex on his wrist. It was past midnight, and his mood grew increasingly restless and irritable. In the past, no matter how many times he had loudly demanded to cancel the engagement, Xiao Wan would either ignore him or throw a pillow in his face. Yet this time she had silently accepted it and hadn't even blown up his phone demanding he come home. No wonder she hadn't been nagging or scolding him lately. She had already found a new harbor. Fuck. On what basis does she dare to like someone else? Wasn't I good enough at home? Wasn't my health check up good enough? The more Gu Yan thought about it, the more stifled he felt. His heart felt like it was being stabbed by 10,000 needles. Jealousy and extreme grievance mixing together. While he was sitting there sulking, Chu Jing and the rest of the troublemaking brothers pushed open the door and walked in, grinning like they had won the lottery. They aimed a party popper straight at his face. Pop! Colorful streamers rained down all over his expensive suit. Cheers! Congratulations to our brother Chu for officially breaking free from his shackles and escaping his henpecked life. Damn it. These guys had hit him right where it hurt, pouring salt on his bleeding heart. It was all because these bastards kept dragging him out every day that Xiao Wan had free time to fool around with another man. Guyan jumped to his feet in rage, smashed his wine glass, and roared with a broken voice. Do I need you guys worrying about my business? Huh, are you satisfied now? She's really cheated on me and found another lapdog. Oh no, Brother Chu, don't cry. The group panicked. I'm not crying. Tears fell like broken pearls. Guyan wiped at them, but the more he wiped, the harder they fell, seeing their boss crying hard enough to flood the entire VIP room. The underlings frantically dialed Xiao Wan's number. Brother Chu, calm down. We just called my sister-in-law. She's coming to take you home soon, okay? Guyan froze, then hurriedly wiped his face with his sleeve, putting on an arrogant front. What did you call her for? If she wants to cancel the engagement, then let's cancel it all the way. Asking me if I need her. I've had enough of her controlling me like she's the queen of the world. In reality, every insulting word had been spoken, while his male pride was struggling to survive. The truth was that he absolutely loved the feeling of being controlled by Xiao Wan. He loved the way her cheeks puffed up and her eyes glared when she scolded him. He would rather she pinched his ear and cursed him out than see her smile gently at some stranger. That bastard is nothing. He was the childhood sweetheart, and that guy was just the third party trying to steal his wife. On that fateful day when Xiao Wan came to the racetrack to find him, and indirectly asked about changing the fiancé, he had deliberately said, "So what?" to create some pressure and make her jealous so she would hold on to him tighter. At that time, his brain had completely failed to realize how shattered Xiao Wan's heart had been when she came looking for him. He really was the most damnable bastard in the world. He had personally pushed away the girl he loved most. After Xiao Wan left without looking back, Grandpa Gu happily brought Xiao Wan Chu over to demand an engagement. He immediately flipped the tea table and refused outright. When the old man tried to arrange meetings with other prestigious young ladies, he grabbed a golf club and smashed the antiques in the living room as a warning. In this lifetime, Guyan only needed Xiao Wan to ride roughshod over him. Even if others were made of gold, he wouldn't want them. In order to gain enough power to protect her, this young master, who only knew how to cause trouble, had gritted his teeth and forced himself into the office, studying day and night to learn how to run the corporation. He had turned Beijing upside down for over half a year, before finally tracking her down in Nanchang. He had spent so much effort, and used every dirty trick in the book to insert himself into this remote branch and approach her company. All just to bring his wife home. Yet heaven had played a cruel joke on him. She had actually dared to publicly be with someone else. In that moment, his heart felt like it had been crushed to pieces. The days without Xiao Wan nagging in his ear felt worse than death. That night under the tree when he watched Xiao Wan let Peasy kiss her, Guyan had been both insanely jealous and terrified. He was scared, truly terrified of losing her forever. Hugging a bottle of liquor in the bar, he cried like a child who had lost his mother. From childhood to adulthood, he had lived like a prince who could summon wind and rain. The only person he had ever truly feared was Xiao Wan. He was a cowardly, foul-mouthed bastard who liked someone, but always acted defiant in front of his brothers just to get attention. In his drunken haze that night, the familiar scent of Wan had enveloped him. He could no longer suppress his beastly instincts and had pounced on her, claiming her completely. The next morning when he sobered up and saw her exhausted, sleeping face, he had panicked and fled. He was afraid that when she opened her eyes, all he would see was utter disgust. Everything was only salvaged when Xiao Wan called and teased him about being a mistress. His pride had reared up and he slammed the phone down, but inside his heart fireworks were exploding. If she wouldn't let him be the main husband, he would steal her away from him anyway. And then the moment she said she and Pei Zi were never in love, his brain exploded with brilliant fireworks. All the pent-up grievance and longing from countless nights burst out at once. Thank God, my wife is still my wife. From now on, Guyan swore an oath even if he were beaten to death. He would never dare to be foul-mouthed with his wife again. That worthless pride could be thrown into the chicken coop. How could it ever compare to Xiao Wan's smile? Guyan, in this life, I will be forever loyal and willingly remain the little dog at Xiao Wan's feet.